Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of StrangerVille, which is the world that we got from the game pack The Sims 4 StrangerVille. That's always really confusing to say, but I'm going to be building a Victorian family home. So this house has 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and I'm building in the neighbourhood which I believe is called Shady Acres. It's in the area of StrangerVille, which is on the top right hand side. I'm closing my eyes trying to imagine the map. Yeah, it's on the top right hand side of the map. It's where all these Victorian style houses are when you first go into a brand new save file. To be honest, StrangerVille is a really beautiful world, and I do need to start building here more often. I think the last time I built in this world was July of last year, just before the Cottage Living expansion pack came out. So I felt like a build in this world was a little bit overdue, but I really wanted to sit down this week and build something for my save file because this house will be in my save. And by the way, I've got a backstory for the Sims that are going to be living in this house, and I've absolutely fallen in love with it. This might sound a little bit cheesy and a little bit cringy, but do you ever get it when you create a new family in the Sims and then you might be like going about your day doing other things, you might be going to sleep or something, and then you can't stop thinking about it and you keep on like putting more information into the storyline and just kind of adding more elements to a backstory and an idea of a Sims family. That is what I was doing once I thought about the storyline for this household, which I'm so excited to talk about, but I will talk about in just a minute. I kind of want to talk about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, the main structure of the build came together quite quickly, and I'm already going in and doing the floor plan. I say that as I cut to the next part of me not doing the floor plan, but you can see that I just quickly did the floor plan, and now I'm going around and adding the roof patterns, the roof trims, and then also doing the wallpapering for the exterior of this house. Now I do want to say that I was pretty much trying to replicate a picture that I found on Pinterest. I say this all the time. Whenever I look at a picture on Pinterest, whenever I gather inspiration, I always like to mention it, just so you know. And I found this picture on Pinterest and I pretty much tried to replicate it as best as I can. I'll find the picture and I'll pop it up on the screen now. Now you might be thinking, hang about, that house is blue and purple. I wanted to copy the shape of it, not so much the colour palette of the house, because don't get me wrong, the colour palette of the house that I found on Pinterest is all right, but I wanted to kind of still put my own spin on it, and so I decided to settle on some white panelling and this green brick for the wallpaper. Now I have seen this green wallpaper so many different times in my build and buy menu, and I've wanted to use it in so many of my builds, but I just felt like it didn't fit in any of the other builds that I've previously done. I just didn't feel like it would have worked that well. But I feel like when you're building a house in the world of StrangerVille, you can almost be a little bit more experimental when it comes to the exterior wallpaper colourings. Like you could have I don't know, like a bright blue, a blue suburban house. No, but you can have like a bright blue house with, I don't know, purple and green windows, and it would be a little bit more acceptable in the world of StrangerVille, because everyone in this world, I think anyway, is a little bit more quirkier to the other world. So I feel like Sims that live in StrangerVille have a little bit more spice to them to the Sims that live in like Willow Creek and Newcrest. Hopefully you agree with that. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention it because I thought it was funny, the amount of different builds that I've done in the past and the amount of times I've seen this green wallpaper and I've just never seemed to use it because it just never seems to fit in. But I'm really happy that I got to use it in this build. But anyway, talking about wallpapers aside and actually talking about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've just did a little tiny bit of terrain painting. You know, one thing that really winds me up is the fact that we've got this terrain paint in the world and then we've got one in the build and buy menu, but it's just a completely different shade of the one that's in the world. So you can see like where the edge of the lot stops and then where like the house terrain paint starts. You can see the colour difference. Honestly, it really winds me up. But besides the point, you can see that I've now started doing a little bit of landscaping. I really like the way that I landscape this house, but I'm not going to lie to you, it did take me, I think, 3 different attempts, or possibly even 4 different attempts for me to landscape the front of the house, because I was just really struggling on how to landscape it, because I was using a lot of plants that I don't normally use. I mean, I feel like I can't really use these, I think they're called Joshua trees, and you know, like cactuses and these big ferns. I feel like I can't use them in some of my other builds, and so because of that, and I don't really tend to build in the world of StrangerVille that much, I don't really seem to landscape it with them. And so when it comes to landscaping with the plants, I find it a little bit difficult, but in the end I absolutely love the way it came together. I tried to use a lot of different red flowers in this build, which colour in my landscaping is something that I never seem to normally do. I think I've said this before in the past, but to me, whenever I look at a house and it's got, you know, like blue flowers, pink flowers, I don't know, green ferns and all the different colours of flowers, and they're all in one flower bed. Sometimes I find it's a little bit overpowering and you don't know really what you're looking at. So normally I try to stick to very muted colours. So I like to have a lot of greenery, and that mostly comes from, different bushes that I use, or maybe I'll use some ferns or maybe trees in the landscaping. But then I also like to use a lot of different white flowers. My absolute favourite thing to landscape with is them white hydrangeas. The ones that I use are from the live edit menu, because off memory, and to be honest, I haven't looked at the ones that we have in the build and buy menu that actually cost your Sims simoleons. I haven't looked at them in like a year or something, but I'm pretty sure they don't have a white swatch like the swatch of the ones I've used. So I always go for the live edit ones. I then also like to landscape with maybe the occasional like yellow flower, but a very pale yellow flower, and then maybe like a really pale pink. But apart from that, I like to keep the colour in my landscape quite muted and quite minimal, because like I said, I feel like with all these different colours in one flower bed, you don't really know what to look at, and it can just look a little bit too busy. And so I normally try and keep it muted. But in this house, where I use the green, I feel like in some lights it can look a little bit yellow, and so I thought having some red flowers, like some red roses and some little red like flower boxes on some of the windows would tie in really nicely, and I think it does, and I really like the look of it. So I hope you guys like it as well. But anyway, enough talking about that, and actually finally moving on and talking about the Sims that are going to be living in this house for my save file. So the household consists of 3 Sims. We have a mum, her son, and then the son's baby, which will then also be the mum's grandchild. So in terms of life stages, the mum is going to be in the elder life stage, the son is going to be a young adult, and then the grandchild, I'm thinking I might keep to be an object baby, which if you're familiar with my channel or you've watched any of my videos before when I've talked about babies in The Sims 4, you know that I highly dislike object babies, because they're literally objects. I mean, you literally get more interaction with a computer or with an art easel than what you do with a baby, which is meant to be a life stage in The Sims 4. It's a bit of a joke. But besides the point, I think for my save file, it might be more interesting if I keep the grandchild to be a baby. In their bedroom upstairs, I've decorated so it's got a toddler bed and a crib. So, you get the best of both worlds, whatever I decide to go for. But besides the point, the mum is going to be working in the hospital career, which is a career that we got from the Get to Work expansion pack. And they're going to be working as a nurse. Someone that goes in and cares for patients and often handles a lot of different medicine and a lot of different antibiotics. I'm only mentioning this because it will be relevant in just a second. And her son is going to be working in a retail career. Now, I was thinking the son's retail job was a job that they picked up when they were in secondary school. When you're in school and you might pick up a job for like Saturdays or Sundays or something, work at the weekends, get a little bit of pocket money so you can go out with your mates at the weekend, whatever. I imagine that it was a job that they had when they were in secondary school or high school, whatever you want to class it as. And since leaving school, they didn't really have a really big ambition for like a career that they wanted to go into. They didn't really see themselves working a 9 to 5, and they didn't really aspire to be anyone in a certain career. And because of that, they thought, you know what, I'm quite happy in my little retail job. I might as well stay here and try and get myself into the best position. So I was thinking in this like instance, maybe they started as like a sales associate or like a sales person, and now they're trying to work themselves up to become like store manager or whatnot. Now, I was thinking that they were going to be working in a supermarket, which is, there's a reasoning why I was thinking of supermarket. So the idea that I had in my head was one day the son had finished working their job, finished working in the retail, and they were walking home. Now, I imagine that they finished quite late, and that's why I was thinking supermarkets, because like big Tesco's or like 24-hour supermarkets. I don't know any supermarkets in the US, I only know UK supermarkets, but if you're from the UK, like big Tesco, it's open 24 hours. I imagine that they finished their night shift and they was walking home, and as they was walking home, they see this like blue light in the sky. They look up and there was an alien spaceship, and the son, long story short, got abducted by some aliens. Now, I'm pretty sure the majority of people know this because it's been out for a really long time now, but just in case you've never seemed to have it in your game, which to be honest, in my game, it's quite a rare occurrence. If you have the Sims 4 Get to Work and your sim is out of an evening, out past a certain time when it's basically dark, long story short, your sim can get abducted by aliens, and it's a little bit more interesting if your sim is going to be a male. Now, the reason for that is because if your sim gets abducted and they're a male, they'll come back home and they will be pregnant, because in The Sims 4, male sims can be impregnated by aliens in the planet of, or on the planet of Sixam. Your sims don't visit Sixam, by the way. They just kind of like disappear for a bit and then they come back and then they're pregnant. But it's a really interesting storyline, and I really wanted to include it somewhere in my save file. You know, someone one day was walking home from somewhere or was coming back in the dark, and they got abducted by aliens, and now they're a father to an alien baby. And I thought, what better place to do it than StrangerVille? It's literally the perfect location, and it really reminds me of The Sims 2 Strange Town, if anyone ever played that. Literally so nostalgic to me. That was my childhood. The amount of times that I played the storyline, I think it was with the 3 brothers, and one of them was pregnant with an alien baby. Iconic. I absolutely loved it to pieces. But anyway, getting back to talking about the storyline for this household. So I imagine that when the son got abducted and, you know, they got impregnated by an alien, they didn't know straight away. I imagine that they went home, they thought it was a bit weird. Maybe they thought that they had a bit too many after work or something. Maybe they were coming home from like drinks, for maybe like a member of staff left. I don't really know, but either way, maybe they didn't really understand what was happening, or maybe they got brainwashed and they don't remember. Either way, they woke up the next morning and they felt really like just under the weather, really poorly. And I imagine that the mum, where she works in a hospital, she was able to go and, you know, get different antibiotics, get different kind of medicine, but they both wasn't aware of what actually happened. They didn't know the full extent. And I imagine it was only days after the event happened of the son getting abducted that they started to remember a little bit more. Like, hang on a minute, I was actually walking home and I got abducted by something in the sky and something happened to me. So I imagine that it was kind of something that the mum and the son kept between them. You know, I imagine that there also was a father figure in the house, but I imagine that they didn't tell the father figure for a while. But getting back to the storyline, so I imagine that after a while they kind of realised what happened to them, kind of clocked on at the fact of they was abducted by aliens, but they didn't want to go and tell anyone. They just kind of wanted to keep it between themselves and tell their mum, just because they were scared to be taken by the military in the world of StrangerVille. Because if you're not aware, there is loads of different like military walking around the world. If you go down to the area which I think is called StrangerVille Plaza, there will be some like military trucks like driving about, there'll be scientists and whatnot. So I imagine that they didn't want to tell anyone, because I mean, imagine if someone walks in and was like, by the way, I just got impregnated by an alien. People can be like, oh, about what? Like, get on a science table, let's do some experimenting. So I imagine that they wanted to keep it to themselves. And I imagine after a while, they finally told the father figure in their home. I imagine that the father figure was probably going to be a step parent to the son anyway. I don't know why they're not going to be like in relation, like have any relationship with their like biological parent. But I just feel like the father figure that was there was probably going to be the mum's husband and not so much the biological father to the son, if that makes any sense. I imagine that the mum then decided to tell her husband, the stepfather of the house, and the stepfather just thought it was a little bit too strange to them. Now, I did kind of miss out the fact that I imagine that the son of the household was quite a secluded person. You know, I imagine that they're definitely going to have the loner trait in The Sims 4. They don't really have any friends. They maybe had like 1 or 2 friends in like primary school, but then throughout secondary school, they were kind of someone that kept himself to themselves. They don't really have any friends. They've never had a partner to, you know, any romantic interest. And so I imagine that when this thing happened to them, they were kind of seeing a little bit more of a future for themselves, because they couldn't really see what else they were going to do with their life. You know, they just thought that they were going to work themselves up to become like a store manager. But then apart from that, they didn't really have any ambitions in terms of relationships or friendships. And I imagine that when this happened to them, at first they thought, oh my God, this is like the worst thing ever. But then I imagine that after time they thought, actually, this could be quite good for me. And so they decided to keep the baby, but keep it completely hush-hush, no one knows. I imagine that the mum then told her then husband, and, you know, the husband was like, do you know what, not really in the cards for me, don't really like the idea of this. So then they got a divorce, and then from there, I will talk about what I'm doing. I'm trying to wrap the storyline up. Honestly, I developed so much of it in my head. I was thinking about it all last night that I've got so much information that I want to tell you, but I will, once I've finished like this little wrapping up bit, I'll talk about it a little bit more when we move on and talk about individual bedrooms and whatnot. But I imagine that the mum and then the husband, you know, they got a divorce, and then since then, the grandmother or the mother, the son, and then the baby or the alien baby now live a very sheltered life in this house in the area of StrangerVille, which is really ideal, because where this house is placed, like this particular lot, is very secluded from the other lots in this world. Because when you if your sim was to drive up this little area, this is the first house that they get to. But it's kind of like a house that you have to go down like a bit of a dirt track to get to. It's not right on the road. It's a bit secluded, it's a bit out of the way, and it's very ideal for their living situation, because now the 3 of them live here with a housekeeper, which again I'll talk about in just a second when I move on and do their bedroom. But they live here with their housekeeper, and they basically don't leave the house, and this is their life now. I'm honestly so in love with the idea for this storyline. I don't know if you can tell, but I had so much fun thinking about it. If I'm being honest, I might create this family and then play with them in a separate save file. I might as well. I've already built the house. I feel like there are so many different elements and so many different routes as well that you go with this gameplay idea. I was thinking that maybe when the baby grows up, obviously it's an alien, there is a disguise. I can't remember. I haven't played with aliens in a while. I'm not sure what age disguises start at, because your sim, if they're an alien, they can have like a human sim disguise, which is actually a really fun little feature. But I'm not sure what age that starts at, but I imagine that if they're a child, maybe the family just don't want them to go out. They don't want anyone to know that there's even a child, let alone an alien child. And so maybe you could go down the route of, if you're someone that plays with mods, you could download like a homeschool mod. Or maybe if you're someone that doesn't play with mods, or maybe if you play like on console, you could keep it so when the child tries to go to school, you cancel that like interaction, you get them to stay at home, but then you get them to be kind of homeschooled by the family. They teach them chess, they teach them piano, they teach them all these little like bits and bobs that they would learn in skill, but they're being taught by their household members because they're not allowed to leave the house. Honestly, I had so much fun with this storyline idea, and also I'm really sorry that I spoke over quite a lot of the furnishing. I think I've spoken over the hallway, the kitchen, the dining room, the lounge room, this little craft room. I'm not sure if I've also spoken over the like piano room. I don't know what class it has. I would call it a library, but it's got a piano in there at the same time. So imagine if you're sitting down, you're trying to read, and you've got someone, trying to be Elton John on the piano next to you. It's not going to go down well. But I don't know if I've already furnished that or not. I think I have, but apologies for speaking over it. Normally try to keep the storyline aspect of my videos to just the outside furnishing, but there was just so much information that I was so excited to tell you all into this storyline that I've kind of gone over a little bit, so hopefully you don't mind. But anyway, moving on from that, I'm finally talking a little bit more about this build. So as you would have seen, I just furnished the craft room. Now, as this family is going to be very secluded, they never leave the house, I wanted to fill the house with as many activities as I could possible. And I was thinking, do you know what, we've got this relatively big house for only 3 sims, well technically 4, but I'll talk about that in just a second. But what do I fill the other rooms with? Because I feel like doing a home office all the time can be a little bit boring, a little bit repetitive. And I was thinking, well, hold on, I've got this elderly lady, why not make it, it's a little bit stereotypical, but why not make it so she's really into knitting and arts and crafts and like crocheting and everything arts and craftsy. And we got Nifty knitting. We actually got Nifty knitting quite a while ago, but I don't really seem to build craft rooms for your sims. And we've got a lot of different furniture. Unfortunately, it doesn't really match the rest of the furniture in the house as well as what I would like to, because it's quite like modern-ish. It's not really modern, but it's modern-ish compared to the rest of the furniture in the house. But I thought, you know what, I'll just bite the bullet, let's make a little crafts room. And I located it at the front of the house, because originally that was not going to be that room, that was going to be a bedroom. What I'm doing right now, which is a bedroom, was going to be the craft room. But I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that the woman in the house, and like the mother, would often spend their days in the craft room, because where it's located right at the front, there's these big windows, and if anyone is approaching the house, they can see them, because I feel like they're going to be very protective over both their son and their grandchild. And so I decided to make a little craft room. It's got, it's also got a little laptop in there, so it's kind of a home office, but it's more so focused on the idea of your sims have all these different paints and all these different pencils and all these different, like knitting essentials and sewing essentials and whatnot. But as you would have seen, I did just quickly do one of the bedrooms. So like I've mentioned, there is 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms in this house. 2 of the bedrooms I decided to make into kind of like spare bedrooms, but then as I was decorating this house and I was kind of developing the storyline a little bit more in my head, I was thinking, hang on, these sims are going to be secluded to this house. How are they going to get, the essentials? How are they going to get milk? How are they going to get bread and whatnot? I know that technically now we have the delivery service that we got with Cottage Living, but I think it's now base game. But I know your sims can get food delivered. But I thought, what about other things? Like they do need to go to the outside world sometimes. And so I thought that they might have hired a in-house housekeeper that's going to be someone that will be able to pop to the StrangerVille Plaza for them and go and get them medicine if they need it. They're going to go and get them food if they need it. By the way, I also didn't mention, I feel like this is a bit of a given up, but when the baby was born, both the mum and the son quit their jobs, so both of them are no longer employed. I imagine though, because obviously they need to fund their lifestyle, they need to have some sort of income, some sort of money situation. I imagine that when the mum got a divorce, that maybe they got some money come through, or maybe an idea for gameplay, maybe their money is quite quite fastly decreasing. They're running out of money quite quickly, and maybe they're going to have to find ways of making money. Maybe this is where the craft room comes in handy. Maybe the elderly woman starts knitting some stuff and selling it on Plopsy, or maybe the son decides that they want to start getting into programming to fund it. Things that they don't have to leave the house for. Maybe that's a good idea for gameplay. But getting back to the housekeeper, I'm still stuck on the idea of whether I want to make them a sim that's going to be in the household. They're going to count as a household member. So instead of being the 3, it'll become 4. Or to make them a butler, because I like the idea of them being a butler for the aspect of, they cook when you ask them to, they clean, and they might answer the door. They can be someone that gets people to go away. But then I don't like the fact of they have a little uniform, unless there's a mod, but then I don't want you to have to download mods to my save file. But unless there's some way that you can make it so butlers don't have to wear their little uniform that they're given, or do I just make them so they're going to be a member of the household, but they're going to be a housekeeper, and they're going to be someone that's got like max skills and everything. They are someone that you can interact with. I was thinking, the film Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan in, in that film they've got, I thought it was Jessie for a really long time, the housekeeper's name. Apparently it's something else. Apparently it's not called Jessie, but I could have sworn on my life that their name in that film was Jessie. Besides, it's completely irrelevant. But if you know the film Parent Trap and they've got a housekeeper in the dad's house, I imagine the housekeeper to be someone like that. They're not really seen as the help of the household. They're more seen as a family member now. And I was also thinking that possibly the housekeeper could form some sort of romantic interest with the son over time. Maybe they're helping raise this little alien object baby, and maybe in the process of that, they fall for each other. Also a really good idea for storyline. Honestly, I might create this household tonight. I might play with them. But besides the point, as you can see, I've now moved on. I just did the toddler's room. I did one of the bathrooms. I think I did the laundry room downstairs, and then I did one of the upstairs bathrooms. But now I've moved on into the second spare bedroom. So I wanted this room to be apparent that it's going to be a spare bedroom. So that's why I put some cardboard boxes in the corner, and then I also put down the decorations box that we've got from Seasons. So during, like holiday periods, whether it's Love Day or Winterfest or, like Spooky Day or whatnot, your Sims can go and put some outdoor decorations up using that box. But thinking about it, I feel like this household are not going to want to advertise for trick-or-treaters to come to their house. Another idea. Sorry, I keep on getting ideas as I'm doing this voiceover as well. But maybe the one day a year that the child could go out is Halloween, because they're in their true form, but it looks like a costume to everyone else. No, I am actually going to create this household tonight. Anyway, moving on from that, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next room, which is the son's bedroom. So this room was a really awkward shape. You can see that it's like this really long, quite skinny room, and I really didn't know how to lay it out. So I end up building like a wall as kind of like a bit of a column, but it helps me like separate the room from like the sleeping area to then the computer area. Now, I imagine that the son was quite into space. They were trying to do some research, trying to find out where their child is from. And so I do try and include some space-related items in this room. You can see on the bedside table, I put like a little space rocket. I then also put some like galaxy pictures, one above the bed and then one over here on top of the chest of drawers. And then I found this picture, which is in the decorations menu. I don't know where it's from. It might be the movie Hangout stuff pack, but don't quote me on that because that could be completely wrong. I'm just assuming here. But it looks like a film poster, and it's a sim that looks like they're from Star Wars, and I felt, Star Wars, space fits in kind of, and so I decided to put it into this room. I also put a little baby Yoda onto this bookcase, which I think is from Discover University. Now, I'm pretty sure I've never even pulled that item out of my catalogue. I'm not someone that's massively fond of Star Wars. I mean, I played Journey to Batuu once. It took me a year to buy it. First of all, I bought it in the sale because I personally didn't think it was worth full price, but that's a different story for a different time. But I played Journey to Batuu once. I had no idea what was going on. I'm not a massive fan of Star Wars, but I can appreciate, the fandom of it, and I completely understand why some people absolutely love it. But I've just never pulled out the Baby Yoda before, and I thought, what, if I'm going to put it into a build somewhere, why not put it into this build? But anyway, as you can see, I've now moved on into the last room, which is the mum's room. So in here, we just have a double bed. We have that little thing at the end of the bed that your Sims can sit on. We have a little makeup station. I also take my time on deciding what type of wardrobe or chest of drawers that I want in this bedroom. I ended up settling on one that we got from Room of Magic, but then apart from that, I'm just going to go around the room and just finish it off with some decorations, and that is basically it. So anyway guys, I'm actually going to end this voiceover right here. So as always, you can download this build via the gallery. My original ID is Jessicapie, or you can search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys!